so it just took a long time. It was a hard record to mix because we had so much music on tape, you know, at the end of the day, that just to get the kind of balance of things right, it was very important. And we sort of failed several deadlines and finally got it finished. I was moving around lots of studio, you know, and we did a lot of it in New York and some in London, and then we were going to Nassau, all over the place. And also with lots of different musicians, so it was a time for experiment for me, you know, trying out different players and different combinations of people, just to see what worked best, you know. So I felt it was an album I had to spend time on.
Well, I mean, whilst on that subject of where you said, you know, Avalon seemed like a complete album. I mean, if you take, say, something like a Michael Jackson thing with Thriller, I mean, how can one possibly sort of, you know, I suppose, especially him, emulate that as far as, like, obviously with sales and success that it has? I mean, does that become a thing when you feel that the album, you've done your ultimate album? That
yeah, well, you feel a certain pressure, you know, when you've done something that you think worked,
right.
that you have to try and top it in some way, you know, try and improve in some area. And with this one, the only real idea I had was to try and make it stronger rhythmically, you know, to make it an album that would just groove from start to finish. And so I spent a lot of time getting the right combinations of people for that. You know, it ended up being quite a complex affair. Instead of having, say, one rhythm guitar, there'd be like three rhythm guitarists bouncing off each other,
right.
Which one of them you'll probably see tonight, Nile Rodgers,
right.
and Neil Hubbard, who I've worked with for many years now, and a new guitarist called Chester Kamen. Then we had all these different soloists, like David Gilmour and Mark Knopfler, David Sanborn, the sax player. All new people for me, you know, people who I liked very much, who I'd listened to their work obviously over the years, and thought, oh, it'd be nice to work with him.
Well, how hard is it to pull those people together?
I was very fortunate. You know, it was a phone call,
right.
really, and those are obviously the sort of high spots of recording. You know, when the day when somebody comes in, and usually they're just there for 1 or 2 days. The rest of the time, it's just me and Rhett Davis, the engineer, producer, slogging away. And then, so generally it's a fairly private affair. And then you have these sort of high spots when soloists or whatever come in to do something.
Right now, I mean, when going back to the Roxy stage, and when you did your solo album, I remember doing an interview with you then, and you seemed sort of hesitant to sort of be a solo artist. Was that, you always refer to the group.
Yeah, I've always liked the security, you know, of the group name, the anonymity of kind of, I suppose, hiding to some extent behind that, because it was always a kind of an untarnished image, if you like, whereas I was always a bit suspect of the public image that I had, and doing work under my own name, I always felt a bit kind of, after a few years, I felt a bit kind of unsure about that.
Right.
And I felt, to some extent, it was getting in the way of the work. But then, after the Bride Stripped Bare album, I did the 3 albums with Roxy, and very few parties, and really got stuck into working, you know, for a long period, and it hasn't stopped yet. And I felt a bit more secure about doing the thing under my own name, you know, after those 3 albums.
Now, I mean, again, going back to sort of even like through the solo situation, and then even with Roxy as far as video was concerned, you always, well, to me it seemed to be aware of the importance of a good video. I mean, whereas today it's just, I guess, the norm now.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't back in those days, you know.
Well, our first success was with Hard Rain's Gonna Fall in Australia, you know, which was sending the video, you know, because we'd never performed there at that point. And that was a good case in point of where a video could be a kind of a commercial tool, and that was instrumental in the success of a piece of work. I always prefer if an audience kind of listens to the music, obviously, because that's what it is. You know, it's you kind of spend all this time building up a picture, a mood, and an atmosphere, whatever, and you hope that the audience will use their imagination and sort of listen to it, you know, and build up their own picture.
Pictures,
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't be playing everywhere in the world at once. I can't anyway, because I don't really tour very much. So I think it's important to, you know, to use the technology, if you like, of doing videos,
Right.
you know, doing films, promotional films, and sending them around and at least educating people, telling them that you exist, you know, or that piece of work exists.
Now you're talking about touring. I mean, I've seen you on tour, and you tend to sort of thrive when you're on a tour. I mean, does it mean
Once it gets going, I suppose, yeah.
Do you find it a hassle touring?
Yeah, I do, because it's just the nights when you don't feel up to it. I think there was some kind of overzealous kind of planning involved with the last tour we did, where they put too many dates back to back for me,
Right.
and there were some nights where it was a bit of a struggle, you know. If I tour again, I'll certainly make it a kind of short, sharp affair rather than a long, drawn-out one, because that suits me best, you know. So I would like to come out to Australia, maybe do Australia and Japan at some point. That's a sort of vague idea in mind at the moment. The current plans only include doing this Band Aid concert in July,
Right.
which they're doing at Wembley.
So
and New
who
York.
will you be sort of using for that?
Well, I guess a lot of the people who were on the Avalon tour, I suppose. I think David Gilmour was going to do it. And Andy Newmark, and
Right.
it's going to be a very good band of people. About 10 of us, I think.
Now, I mean, the span of success that you've had, and to have success as you've got with Slave to Love now, did you ever become disillusioned with music, or the industry that it represented?
Well, the industry, yes, but then I've always been careful not to get too involved. You know, I've always been quite good, I think, at keeping my distance from it, and just in order to keep my own enthusiasm at the right level. I've always kind of done a piece of work or a tour and then retreated from it, from the whole area of music, into my own private life or whatever. That's always been quite important to me, you know, to have this other world, you know.
Well, I realise that. I mean, has it been hard to maintain that? I mean, your private world?
Well, nothing's easy, but I just work at it, you know. There again, the last 2 years, I've been sort of moving around with carrying my tapes everywhere, so I haven't really escaped from it that much in terms of my own work. But I haven't really been involved with the promotion side of things, or that sort of career thing, except for the last couple of weeks. Obviously, when you put out a record, you do sort of tend to go out and talk it up and all the rest of it, to just create some interest, you know.
So the album, I mean, what can we look forward to now?
Well, I think it's okay. It's a lot of very good players playing on it, and it's, you know, good combinations of those talented people, and I think the songs are okay.
How many songs are on the album?
I think it's 9.
Right.
Yeah, and all new things. I didn't want to do any, cover versions of any other songs this time round.
Right.
So that's what really took a lot of time, because I tend to write in the studio, and the whole thing gets slower and slower for me, but hopefully the work gets better and better.
Well, listen, A Slave to Love is a wonderful song. We love it.
Thanks.
It's going to be a big one down in Australia, already big in England and America. And if you do tour, or if you ever think about touring, you've got to come down again.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.